From a small town in Wexford to the bright lights of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 40 years, lily-white blood, through the glory, through the heartbreak, through every single match, I've been there. Do you know what it means to love a club from across the world? To wake up at all hours, to live and breathe every kick of the ball? This is more than football. This is family. This is faith. This is THFC till we die. From Poch to De Zerbi, the journey never ends. In De Zerbi, we trust. Coys.
Just from lane to the new shining ground, echo chants where the legends are found. Heroes carved in the heart of time, we march on through grit and grime. Oh Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire. Whoa. Echoes of King and Greaves in the air. Every goal, the sound declares. Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire.
Yes, guys, welcome back to THFC to a Die, the home of Tottenham past, present, and an exciting future, of course, on the Roberto De Zerbi, the Italian maestro, the Italian godfather. And, of course, this is the return of the greatest podcast in the world, Irish Lads Talk Spurs, where me and Dave, from the greatest country in the world, talk all things Tottenham. I think me and Dave might be the only two Irish podcasters, Tottenham podcasters in Ireland, actually, Dave. But big up, man. Great to see you. Great to have you back. The summer's boring. The World Cup is okay. But it's not Tottenham, is it? To be fair.
No, look, he keeps you entertained, I suppose. Look,
Yeah.
the World Cup's been all right, to be fair. But we're back in 13 days. You know, players are back today for medicals and, you know, weight testing and all that sort of stuff. And then they'll be back Monday. But 13 days' time is our first game. So we're nearly there, Dermo. But
we're in there.
With the transfer match we've had, we're back. And we're back early.
Yeah. You sound a bit like Jamie O'Hara. We're back. We're back. All you want now is a slap. We're back. Look, I do you know what? You're right. The World Cup has been quite good, Dave. Look, you look at Cape Verde and Pico, how well he done. I mean, he represented Ireland so brilliantly and played well as well in the 4 games they played. I mean, if you could pick one team out the World Cup, who would you say's really done well? I mean, France look unbeatable, in my view. But do you think there's anyone there out the remaining teams you think can cause a bit of a shock?
Yeah, look, France France look like they're going to go all the way to the final.
Yeah.
But I'm still not writing off Argentina. I know they've had extra time a couple of times and stuff like that, but they know how to get the job done. You know, they're not an easy side to play against. When you have Messi in your team, you can always win a game. So, you know, I'm maybe looking at an Argentina-France final. I'm not writing off Norway, though, Dermo.
No.
I just have a funny feeling if Norway can overcome England, they could beat Argentina, make their way to the final. So I'm not writing them off. You know, defensively, they're good. And then Haaland up top will always get them goals.
Yeah. I mean, you look how they played against Brazil. Haaland's 2 goals were exceptional. Just talking about England, look, you and me from Ireland, of course, there's always banter between the 2 countries, always banter between the 2 sets of fans. I've been banned from a certain channel of Argentina by England because apparently I'm supporting Argentina. They were 2-0 down. I went onto the stream and Argentina won 3-2. So it spooked everyone. So apparently I'm sort of the voodoo here. So for that one game, I'm not allowed in, which I find kind of funny. But if you do look at England, you look at Harry Kane in particular, and Jed Spence as well. Jed Spence, firstly, hasn't sort of disgraced himself, has he? He's played well. He's done well when he's come on. But Harry Kane, we need him back, don't we, Dave? We need that man back in this time. Can you imagine him as our striker in this Team De Zerbi's building? How mouth-watering would that feel?
Yeah, well, look, I didn't want to sell him in the first place because I always knew he was going to be this good. You know, he was already at the heights and he's got on to even greater heights. But look, you know, he's not coming back. That's the reality is, you know, while he's still at the top of his game, he's not coming back. He's going to stick with Bayern Munich and he's going to look to win more, you know, win the Champions League and stuff like that. But look, he's on fire out there at the minute, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised Tuchel was the one that brought him to Bayern Munich, you know, and now he's managing at England and he's getting the very best out of him. Jude Bellingham is also having a very, very good tournament in there, you know. So England, they've got 2 quality players that are producing the goods at the other end. Where I think they've let themselves down, though, is the winger selection.
Yeah,
you know, I think they've been very poor out wide for large parts of this tournament. Anthony Gordon, useless. Saka hasn't produced anything. Madueke, oh my God. Rashford, you know, he's throwing balls into the box, but, you know, there's not much coming from it. But,
yeah,
look, you know, and they've overcome a few tough tests already. You know, that Mexico one was a difficult game. You know, Mexico in their home country, Mexico have looked good. They gave England a real tough test. You know, they were never out of the game. Even when England went 2 goals ahead, they clawed their way back into it, you know, fighting the altitude and everything else. So, look, you've got to give them massive credit. You know, at the end of the day, they've turned up for the last, 4 or 5 tournaments, international tournaments. You know, they're seasoned now. And, look, Norway will be a difficult one. I think Norway, they'll sit everyone behind the ball. England do tend to struggle against teams that play low block. And, you know, they do give away chances, you know, with that back line. And Haaland up the other end will absolutely punish you. So
you will.
It'll be an easy game. England are going to have to fight every single game to be able to get to our cup. But, you know, that's what you have to do to get to the tournament. So far.
You do. I agree with you, Dave, on that. They do. Look, if you look at England and Jed Spence in particular, I think Jed Spence has done all right. There's a lot of call for Jed Spence to be sold. I don't agree with that. I think Jed Spence, you need him. I think if you look at our fullbacks at Tottenham now, in particular, Dave, you've got Porro and Spence on the one side. You might have your Doggy and Robinson on the other. Jed Spence, when he has come on, and especially against Mexico, was exceptional. The way he came on, the way he defended. Everyone keeps talking about Jed Spence's attitude, and we know he didn't get on under Conte. We know, I suppose, under Range, he put that arm around his shoulder, and sort of made him feel wanted. If you look at our fullbacks, I wouldn't sell Jed Spence. I don't know where you're on that, but I think we need to keep him because you need good backups, don't you? And I think your Doggy and Spence are as good as backups as anything. You don't have to worry about that then, do you, really? So where are you on Spence? Would you keep or sell? Where's your attitude on that?
Look, I keep Jed Spence for another season. You know, we're already looking at going to spend big money on a winger and a striker, let alone having to try and buy another right back, you know. So I think I'll definitely keep Jed Spence around for another season. But, you know, there's an opportunity there for him to really put pressure on Pedro Porro. You know, there's going to be a couple of games for Jed Spence, but I think where he needs to tidy his game up is going forward. It is a responsibility of the modern day fullback to be able to, you know, be better than what he is going forward. But for the first time in years, he's actually going to get an opportunity over on the right-hand side this time. So I'm looking forward to see how he gets on, because I do think Pedro Porro, you know, needs to be rested at times. So there's certain games where you go, do you know what, we're up against a world-class winger today. You got to take Porro out of the team and bring in Jed Spence. So there's a use for Jed Spence in the squad. I actually don't think Jed Spence's problem is actually attitude-related. He doesn't seem to me to have a bad attitude whenever I look at him, you know, walking around the place and his demeanor and stuff like that from what we get to see. I just think he's a guy that lives sort of carefree. He doesn't really let things bother him. You know, he doesn't really carry any baggage. And he just looks like a guy for me that is just happy. Now, that's not a bad place to be, but I'd argue I don't think he realizes the talent he has, because if he did, I think he'd set himself some goals. And I think that's what's missing. Like, I look at Jed Spence and I don't think he's a player, Dermo, that has aspirations to become the very best fullback in the world, that wants to have so many trophies and medals in his cabinet before he retires. I think he's just happy with where he's at in life, you know. And look, sometimes that can be as bad as, you know, that can let you down as much as lack of hard work sometimes. It's not having that motivation, that drive. And I think that's what let Jed Spence down, because you see some games from Jed Spence where he's absolutely unbelievable. We've seen him pocket some of the best wingers in world football. But then you see games from Jed Spence where he's just a bit off it, you know, a bit lackluster, you know. And for me, I just think that's someone that, again, is just happy where he's at, doesn't really have that drive, have that push.
I agree. I think Jed Spence likes, I'm a Premier League footballer. I've made it. That's enough. And you think of the amount of money the players are on now, Dave. Anyway, there's not really much incentive to go and push yourself. I think the incentive comes from within you. It's a bit like you and me doing our YouTube channels. The incentive is from inside us to make it a better channel. Like, you want to grow, I want to grow, where it is a kind of competitive market, because there's a lot of channels doing the same thing. And I think with Jed Spence as well, I think he just gets the attitude, I'm a Premier League player. I've made it. I'm on a certain amount of money a week. I'm now set for life. I can set my family up for life. And I think some players I think the majority of Premier League players are like that. The only ones you can...
It's a case that he's made it. He thinks he's made it, Dermo. I think he's just content. He just seems like a very laid-back, carefree guy, you know. No matter what shit comes his way, it just washes off him. It's not a bad way to be.
It's not a bad one. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good way to be. But I think also it's good for you to set yourself goals as well. It's a good way to set yourself a bit of a goal and then say, right, I want to be here this season, but I want to be up here next season. It's like us. I can use the example of running YouTube channels. I'm at 2 whatever K now. I want to be at 5K in 2 years' time. It's about setting yourself goals, and it's about setting yourself targets, and it's about, can I improve myself? Can I make myself better? And look, I like Jed Spence. I really do. And I think all the flack he gets is really unwarranted as well, Dave. I got really pissed off at the end of last season with everyone slagging off Archie Gray just because he got Player of the Year. I still think that was a wrong thing to do. It's easier, again, to smash these young kids over the head with a stick when it's the older players that have let us down the majority of last season. And you look at Jed Spence, you look at Archie Gray, you look at Bergville. How many times did they get us out of a hole last season, Dave? How many times did their performances where they were playing out of position? Jed Spence played on the left side of the defence. How many times last season? More times than you and me can say on one count on one hand. And he never let us down, Dave. Rarely. He may not have had a great game, but there was always, you could see he was trying. The same with Archie Gray. The same with Bergville. And I just feel some of these older players, the likes of Basuma, I think they were right to go. And I think we've done right to clear out the decks, Dave, and bring in these new players now. And if you do look at our transfer market this year, it's been absolutely extraordinary, Dave. We've never seen a transfer window like it. And the one thing I will say, and I said it to you in the background before we came on, is our free transfer. I want to start with Andy Robinson. a very accomplished player, won everything at Liverpool. He brings that winning mentality, Dave. He brings that leadership as well. The leadership group at Tottenham's needs changing. You, me, been saying that for the last season and a half. We may have disagreed over Romero, but I do think we do need a new captain, a different sweep of the broom. Where are you on Andy Robertson coming in? I think it's a great signing. I can't wait to see. I think he brings a lot to the team. How impressive have you been with the free transfers we've done, Dave? Forget the money we spent, just on the free transfers. Is that a step change that you've seen in Tottenham as well, that we're going for experienced players now? It's a complete different way for where, say, under Daniel Levy and how we were doing business then.
Well, Vinay did make a statement, I think, towards the end of the season saying that that's what this summer transfer window was going to be about, was actively recruiting, players with more experience, leadership and stuff, and bring that into the squad. And look, they've done that with the Anthony Robertson signing. Look, we all know how well he done for Liverpool, the accolades that he's won, how good he's been in the Scotland dress, in and around Scotland.
Yeah.
But it's the character in and around the dressing room and the squad on a day-to-day basis. He's well loved at Liverpool for how he acts, behind the scenes. Same with Scotland. So he's going to bring good camaraderie with him, some leadership. He can offer some of them youngsters some valuable experience and advice, and it's more so just how to deal with, say, adversity, little improvements they can make to adjust and improve their game and stuff. And that's what you're looking for Andy Robertson. But what I will say is, don't expect the player that we've seen at Liverpool. You look at a lot of the Liverpool players since Klopp has left. There's been a massive drop off in form in every single one of them players, because Klopp's heavy metal football ran the absolute legs off them. And they were together for a good 4, 5, 6 years, and they're, to a certain extent, damaged goods. So I'm not sure Andy Robertson is going to have the legs to bomb up and down. But when you can cross a ball like him, you don't necessarily need them legs. You just got to get yourself into a decent position with a bit of space and put the balls in the box. But I think the biggest thing for me is, with Destiny Udogie, I was really excited when we've got him. And I really do like what I see of Destiny Udogie, but I don't think he's developed technically. And that's a bit of a concern for me, because if you go back to the Chelsea game last year towards the end of the season, the amount of moves that broke down that left-hand side because he couldn't make and execute a 5-10 yard pass consistently and stuff like that. But I'd argue some of that is down to the guy playing injured. When he came back from that operation, we just threw him straight back in because we had nobody else. We didn't give the guy any time to really recover, recoup, and get up to match speed, match fitness, match sharpness. So having Andy Robertson there allows Udogie to develop, but also if he picks up an injury, to come back properly, come back fit and ready. And when you allow a player that time, you're not going to see them keep breaking down as much as we do at Tottenham Hotspur. So I think it's a massive benefit to Destiny Udogie signing Andy Robertson.
I do as well, Dave. And if you touched on Vinay there, and I just want to touch on that a little bit before we go on about the other free transfers we've done. His talk was always, I felt at the end of last season, Dave, it was a case of, don't look at us, look at Jack over there. It's all his fault. Even with Carrington coming out with his letter, with Vinay coming out with his letter, and I do feel with Carrington there was a lot of accountability being taken by him. And I feel if you look at his letter, Dave, it was, we've made mistake. The buck stops with us. And I feel with Vinay, there wasn't that. It was more like slagging off the training facilities, slagging off it is not built for a performance. It's built, the hotel and all this. And I think it's quite easily, isn't it, to blame somebody else when it's you're in charge of where we were last season. You had the responsibility to provide the funds to go and buy the players last summer and last January. But saying that, I think they've really surprised everyone with their business. And I think it's down to this new CEO that's coming as well, isn't it, Dave? The Man City guy. Him and Vinay seem to be doing it. Are you surprised Lang's still here? Are you quite shocked that he's still in the job, or do you think they've demoted him to just look after the academy players? What's your thoughts on that? Because I'm shocked he's still here. I'm shocked he's still got a job, to be fair.
Yeah, look, when it comes to the Lewis family, you know, I think they have to realize that they have to build back and earn that trust from the Spurs fans. And, you know, with a summer transfer window, as quick as we've already got 6 signings in the door. We've only really a winger and a striker really left to buy. We've got the bulk of our business done. We've acted early, which we're not used to seeing, you know. So we've been able to get our hands on the better players. That's a window we missed last summer, by the way, when we were pissing about trying to appoint Thomas Frank and his 10 coaching staff that done fuck all for us. Clubs were whipping up players left, right, and centre. So by the time we got active in the market, all the best players were gone. We were feeding off scraps a lot of the times. Whereas this year, we've gone and got the best players, and we've beaten big clubs to their signatures, which is sending out a statement of intent. Like, you know, the Tonali and the Fernandez deal. You know, that's probably one of the best double signings I've ever seen in my lifetime at Tottenham Hotspur. So I think you've got to give the Lewis family credit, you know, because it seems like they're really starting to get a handle on the transfer market, which I think Tottenham haven't had for a number of years. Even if you look at the players we've sold, Devine, Dragusin, we got 10 million for Valise and Vescovic. That's already paid off Mateus Fernandez's transfer. You know what I mean? So that's something we haven't done in a while. Being able to sell players for good money. You know, we've always have to end up tearing up contracts, or, you know, letting them go for free, or letting them go out on loan until their contract's up and then they sign for free and shit like that. We haven't had a good grip on the transfer market in a long, long time. So you've got to give them a bit of credit, because they are executing the incomings and the outgoings with efficiency, you know, and we're getting good fees for our players. And look, one thing I've always argued at Tottenham Hotspur, you know, especially with Daniel Levy, is, you know, we have a history of pulling out of bidding wars and deals, and, you know, for like small amounts of money. Like, you know, for instance, we brought Lo Celso, but we pulled out Bruno Fernandes because they wanted an extra 5 million and stuff like that. And it's always come back to bit us in the ass. Whereas this time around, they've gone and put their nuts on the table. They've gone and put their money down. They don't care how much it's cost, and they're getting the players in. Now, forget about all the criticism outside. The reason why they're not laughing anymore and they're criticizing is because Tottenham are doing the right things and they're scared, you know. But make no mistake about it, it's De Zerbi that's running the transfer window, and it's Mawson that deserves the credit for getting the deals over the line, which I'm going to come back to. Just quickly with the Lewis family, I'm still not going to sit here and give them massive amounts of praise. I am very happy for what they've done, and I'm grateful. But I'm not going to jump the gun. We still need, if they're serious, we still need a striker. We still need a winger at a certain level with a certain level of experience in games and history of goals and assists behind them. And also, you know, a lot of the sponsors, it was rumored last year, were very unhappy, looking to renegotiate deals when because their contracts now were coming up. So that's also partly why they're doing this business. Try and keep the sponsors on side, because you don't have them, all of a sudden their business model crumbles. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
so that's part of the reason why they're knee-jerk. And 2 back-to-back 17th places is also a part why they're showing ambition. But also, you know, they weren't happy with the value, with the offer that was on the table for the club last season. You know, and part of me thinks they're only doing this to propel us back up the league so that they can get their valuation met, and they're still going to sort of sell up and move on. But look, even if that is the case, I suppose fair play to them. At least they're spending the money. But I also think there needs to be understanding there's a reason why. You know, we're not operating under PSR anymore. We're operating under squad cost ratio, which means Tottenham can now spend up to 81% of their revenue that they make and stuff like that, which is a massive game changer for Tottenham. It means then we can really start spending all the money, you know, for, you know, from the concerts, the boxing, the rugby, the NFL, the go-karting track, the skywalk, the continuous stadium tours, and whatever else it's rented out for. You know, we can start maximizing that now. We were only operating at like 60-something%, you know, so we've still got more wiggle room yet. So, look, fair play to them. They're showing a bit of ambition. Long may it continue.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. There's 217 places. Now, I came out the other night, and it's called a bit of a stir. I didn't think it through what I was saying, but I meant one thing and it came out another way. So I do have a giggle over that. That if you look at the pie, Dave, right, and you do say finish 17th twice is 96% is a chance, or 97% is why they're doing this. I do agree with you about the sponsorships as well, but also, Dave, you look at the fans, the fans as well, how they were towards the end of last season, especially with the banners within the stadium. It doesn't take a majority of why Tottenham are doing this. But I suppose if you put it into a pie, Dave, it does take 1 or 2% as well. You can add that into the mix as
They're
well.
not doing it because of the fans, Dermo. If they cared about the fans, when that guy approached Vivian Lewis that time, he would have stopped and had a conversation.
Yeah. Well, I do feel the way he did that was a bit out of order.
No, I get that. But, like, also, you know, as owners, you got to expect there's going to be a bit of blowback and anger with how big this club is and where we were, you know. But, like, you know, they stayed silent for most of the season.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They don't care about the fans. They care about their pockets being hit, and that's why they're doing it.
I know that, and that's, as I said, 98% is why they're doing that. But if you look at 100% of everything and you take it as a pie, you look at 98% of that as that, but you're making up to 100. There's other little things as well that get involved in it as well. So look, I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're spending the money. You are right. We do need another striker in the winger. Dave, my attitude on this is, right, I'm pleased they're doing it, but I'm not going to get off this Enoch out thing or changes needed, because they have to back it up in January. They have to back it up next summer. This can't be just a one summer thing. They have to constantly do this now. And if they do constantly do it over time, I think people will start backing off them and start, you know, earning their trust back. But if this is
the true test will be next summer, Dermo. The true test of their ambition will be next summer, because I think every Spurs fan is expecting we'd know Europe, De Zerbi at the helm, some of the quality players we're after signing. Even if we don't really get a striker or a winger over the line, I think everyone still expects Tottenham to get back up inside the top 6, maybe challenge for the top 4 and get back into Champions League.
Yeah.
So then, you know, if someone comes back in with a massive offer that they want, are they going to sell, or are they going to say, no, we're Tottenham fans, we want to keep hold of this club, and we're going to spend big again and kick on to win the league? That'll be the true test, you know, whether they actually mean it or not. But look, right now, I'm not going to complain. We need quality players of that league, and they're delivering.
I'm not complaining either. I'm not fully sold on. I'm not saying sold their change. I'm just saying let's see what happens, and that's the attitude I'm sort of taking. I think we've got to, because we've been down this road before, Dave. We spent money before, maybe not the quality of the players, but we've had sort of good windows in the past. Maybe not as good as this one, but there's always, we're going to do it this summer. We're going to do it this summer. Yes, they are backing the words of their convictions by spending money. And another thing as well, Dave, I want to touch on is the criticism that Spurs are getting at the moment. Now, I did a show the other day on my outrage on Talk Sport and how they're also anti-Tottenham. You look at Jason Cundy, you look at people like Gabby who couldn't play football right, you look at Apperhead Cundy, you know, people that just sit there and take the pure mickey out of us. Jason Cundy seems to forget he used to play for Tottenham back in the early days of the Premier League. Does he seem to forget he pulled on that lily white shirt? And then all he can do is slag us off. Well, you're not a presenter, you're a comedian. Go out and do a one-man stand. You might be good at that. But something Simon Jordan said, and it really got my goat the other day, Dave. Now, I'm normally quite like what Simon Jordan has to say. I can listen to him. I don't agree with everything, but he does make sense in stuff he says. He's a football owner, so you have to give him that little bit of wiggle room to say, well, okay, you've done that, we haven't, so we're going to have to trust your judgment on this. It's when he said the Spurs owners don't know what they're doing, and this anti sort of, why would Tonali want to come to Tottenham? That's really got me, because we are a massive football club, Dave. You and me both know that. We're a massive football club with a massive name. We've got a massive history behind us. Maybe recent history hasn't been great, but if you look at Tottenham's history, we were the first to do a lot of things. Does that anger you? Because it angers me. Does it anger you that these people like a Gabby and the media in general can really put Tottenham down, where it may be warranted in some years under Daniel Levy, but I don't think it's warranted. And when they're saying they don't know what they're doing, and
I think that's fair.
Do you think it's fair?
Yeah, I mean, how many Spurs fans said the Lewis family don't know what they're doing last season? Everyone.
Yeah, that
Every
that
Spurs,
I get it.
every single Spurs fan. Like, they
Yeah,
kept Frank in the job for far too long. They didn't have the
yeah,
balls or the minerals to pull the trigger. This is something I warned about last season with them coming in. Last summer, I said about the Lewis family. I said, I'm a bit concerned because they're wet behind the ears. Yes, they've been around the football club for years, but it's one thing hide behind Daniel Levy and Daddy Lewis and let them make the big cutthroat, big boy decisions, and you actually stepping into them shoes and having to do it. And they were naive last year. Let's
yeah.
be
They were
brutally honest.
naive. Yeah,
They got the pants pulled down in the summer transfer market. They left Frank in the job for far too long. Then instead of throwing the money at De Zerbi in the first place, they went and pissed about with Igor Tudor. It was only really the last minute, to save this club from relegation, that they threw the money at De Zerbi. They could have done that weeks before. They sacked the same day as Frank was at Marseille. They could have done that a long, long time ago and chose not to. So there's evidence to say it. You look at January. What was their decision? We're not going to bring in any more players because we don't want a knee jerk. You bring and look at the
I
effect it
I
had on
get
the
that.
pitch. It was clear the squad needed players. So there's fair arguments to say they don't know what they're doing. They're learning on the job. I knew this was going to happen when they came in.
Yeah,
It's a big
it,
difference from hiding behind Daniel and your daddy making the decisions and stepping up and having to do that. And they don't have
it,
the cutthroat thing. They don't have the
yeah.
experience in football and stuff like that. And it showed last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have this crystal ball, and we can all look into it and say, look, we knew this was going to happen. I mean, I get what you're saying. Now, I do agree with what you're saying, but what gets me is this narrative that we're sort of laughed at, and we've done some really good business this summer, Dave. We've bought in likes of Tonali, we've bought in Fernandez, we've outbitted United, and it's not just a case we've messed around with it.
Well,
We've slapped down 85 million. Do you know
Well,
what
this-
I mean? We've slapped down 100 million for Tonali. And then for people saying, well, why would they want to go to Tottenham? Because they're either going for the money. Well, wouldn't it be with what De Zerbi's plans are? What the project is? And surely not every player is moved by money. Surely some players are motivated by the project that's ahead of them. Yes, money's going to help. And money is probably a good 50% or 60% of that decision-making process. But also, you want to look at a project and you think, I can get behind this. We can be successful under this manager. And I just think it's really disrespectful that they've disrespected us. Yes, have we deserved it? Probably yes, over the years. But it just really angers me, Dave, and it really pisses me off.
Well, look, this is where I do disagree with Simon Jordan. He came out to I agree with him to say that there is evidence to show the owners didn't know what they were doing. I think that's a fair statement to make. Where I disagree with Simon Jordan is when he says that the spending is reckless. It's not reckless. If Man City got Tonali over the line, they'd be praised all over the media. If United got Fernandez over the line, they'd be praised all over the media. Look at their intention. They're going big. They're going for domination. When it comes to Tottenham, it's reckless. And the only reason why people are saying it's reckless is because they've never seen this from Tottenham before.
No.
They're not used to it. The more we do this, the more people are going to analyze what we're actually doing fairly rather than just sticking a sort of reckless tag to it. Because from the outs, from people that don't follow Tottenham Hotspur on a daily basis, they're just going, well, they finished 17th 2 years in a row, and they're just throwing money at it to pull themselves up the table. But what they're not seeing is that we're getting in first choice targets. We're getting in quality players that are going to push you up the table. It's like, and then you look at the bits of free business we've done. It's just not reckless. We're bringing in quality players with a lot of experience, a lot of games behind them in the Premier League, and we're going to mesh them all together and create a really, really good team. So I don't think it's reckless spending. I think it's calculated, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. They came out at the end of the season and they said, moving forward, in the Sharrington letter, football hasn't been at the heart of the decision making, under Daniel Levy, but moving forward, it's going to be. And so far, they've done that. So I don't think the spending has been reckless. When they question about why would players come to Tottenham, again, I think it's a fair question, Dermo. Tottenham isn't the pull to Tonali, Fernandez, Van Hecke. De Zerbi's the pull. They want to come and play for De Zerbi. They like De Zerbi. They like his man management. They like his motivation. They like his tactics. And they like the way he wants to play football. That's why they're coming. And as much as this hurts Tottenham fans to hear, that's the truth of it. They all want to play for De Zerbi. But where I do give the Lewis family credit is they are using that to their advantage. Before Daniel Levy probably would have gone, no, you think you're bigger than the club, would have sacked the manager off the basis of something like that. Whereas Tottenham have realised, but you know what? We don't know what we're doing. We need his help. We need his expertise. So let him identify the players. Let him, go and speak to them on the phone. Get them to commit, and we'll bring in Rafa and Morrison, and he can go and get the deals over the line. And that's exactly what's happening. They're not signing on the dotted line because of they love Tottenham Hotspur, they love some eras of years gone by, and they want to play in this big fancy stadium. They're signing purely on De Zerbi, but I would hope the plan is to use De Zerbi, get us back to the club that we once were in terms of playing the football on the pitch that the fans like, winning football, challenging for things. And then you will start getting players who want to sign for Tottenham Hotspur.
I agree 98.8% of what you said. But you know me, I'm always going to go the 2%. You know me, I'm always going to go a little different. It's because I think it's also signing for Tottenham as well. It's within that as well. I slightly disagree, but I do agree with mostly what you said. You go back to Ange Postecoglou. He got a few players over the line because of what Ange said. Managers do have played the part in buying players as well, Dave. You're right. That managers have to talk to players and convince them, we're the project for you. I'm just really impressed with the way that we've went out and we it was what he said at the end of last season, wasn't it? The last press conference, Dave, after the Everton game was, it starts tonight. It starts tonight. The rebuild starts tonight. And that, for me, sent Tottenham, especially me and probably you, after a season we had of disappointment and heartache and anger, and it really was a season from hell, that it put us into the summer. Maybe something can happen. I just want to welcome a few people in. I didn't do it at the start, so I do apologize, guys. I just want to say big up to Beto, big up to Iceman, who's also been a member for 4 months. Big up to you, Iceman. Thank you so much for doing that. He's saying, yes, we are going to get on to that, Iceman, in a minute. That's the next topic. So big up to you. So big up to Del Boy. Hope Rodney and Uncle Albert are doing all right for you. Big up to Play for Spurs as well. I think that's the channel Ryan and Paul run. So big up to you guys. Put your link in as well if you want, Paul, as well. Big up to Rodney Martin. Big up to you all. Big up to you, sir. Big up to I cannot pronounce that, so I'm going to call you KH. Big up to you. Hope you're doing well. Big up to Simi as well. Big up Simi. Deserve it. Yes, he will. Big up to Orchid as well. Richie's better striker than Slanky. We might have that conversation in a minute. Big up to Simi again. Richie is stronger than him. I agree. Big up to Future Bright. Lily White. Afternoon, boys. Big up to Lily White. Hope you're doing well. Oh, it's Mr. K. Hello. Where the hell have you been? Haven't seen you for a long time. You've disappeared, but big up, Mr. K. Great to see you in the chat. Haven't seen you for a long time, bud. But great. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell. Dave, Romero, you and me had a few discussions last year about Romero. I enjoyed them. We weren't thinking the same, which I like about you and me. You and me we do agree on a lot about Tottenham. We do actually agree. But that's when we don't agree is when the fireworks happen. And I love that because it gets you going, it gets me going, and we can rub our hands and think, right, a bit of Irish fight in here. I was very taken aback before the Everton game by the Romero and the Argentinian thing. I must admit, at the time, I was very angry at it, but looking back on it and being sort of sitting down and taking myself out of the conversation, taking myself out of my own thought and looking at it from a normal point of view, I think everyone was at fault. I think the club are at fault. Romero, I think everyone has to take responsibility. It is when De Zerbi said about this two types of captain, when he was praising that Ben Davies staying around, coming in, doing that. Were you a little bit disappointed in Romero? Look, we can all guess he wanted to play in the World Cup. He wanted to get fit. I get that. But to where we were, Dave, do you think he could have said, do you know what? I'm club captain. I'm not going to go to Argentina. I'm going to stay here. I'll go after the last game of the season. I'll do my rehab here, send somebody over from Argentina to help me. But I want to stay in and around the club, the hotel with the players. Were you a little bit disappointed by that? Or do you think it is what it is? Just get on with it.
No, I think Spurs fans are being hoodwinked by the media yet again. Got caught up in the media, going after Romero. It was the media report that saying he wouldn't be at Tottenham's last game of the season, and he was. So Spurs fans are being hoodwinked again. Why would the media put that out? Surely you'd wait until after the game to see if he actually turned up or not, and then go. It's absolutely madness. So it sort of takes away. I think it was Tim Vickery takes away a lot of his credibility for me. And Spurs fans jumped on the bandwagon and got angry before even seeing if he'd turn up or not. Now look, I agree. I prefer him to stay at home, and being around the squad and stuff like that, and just help, help people with their nerves and stuff like that, and get them prepared for the game. You're captain at the end of the day. You need to be around there. You need to be holding people to account in training that week, making sure they're on it, making sure no one's pissing about and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he had stuff booked in Argentina to help with his rehab, and he had to go. The club could have stopped him. The club didn't. The club were okay with him going. Now, partly I think the club have done that on purpose, because I think that's them getting their own back. I think that's them throwing him under the bus, because he has come out and criticised the club, which he's also got a lot of flack for from fans as well. Some fans go, oh, well, if he doesn't want to be here, go. It's like, well, hang on. When are we actually going to start listening to a lot of these guys, the best players at the club, criticising them and then wanting out? And we get butthurt. And I get it, because we love our club so much. But sometimes I think that love is misplaced. And I think sometimes it's a negative. It actually goes against what's best for this football club. I think sometimes you have to take a step back and go, yeah, I love the football club, but Romero's right. In this day and age, why is he going to the board, asking for them to put on flights to get these players back from international duty, to get them prepared for a North London derby? Why do they have to sit there and wait for the ones that the international teams put on? Because you don't want to spend the extra little bit of money. Now, if you're one of them players and you're seeing your other players being picked up and off they go back, and you're sitting there waiting on the club one, you're going to start becoming pissed off. You're going to start realizing quickly, hang on, this club doesn't fucking care about me. Criticize the board for lack of ambition in the transfer windows. Something every fan criticizes the club for. These are Harry Kane. Why did he leave? Why did he not want to stay at a club that gave him a chance into professional football, that he scored all them goals for, that he loves, everything else? Why did he not want to stay? Because he has ambitions. The club weren't going anywhere to meet the ambitions in terms of buying the players and all this sort of stuff. So everything that Romero has criticised the club on, fair play to him. He's absolutely correct. Yeah. But I also think he's been treated unfairly by referees in this country. I think you see Romero pick up cards for challenges, and you see other players get away with them. You go back and look at that Sunderland game. Romero got booked for a challenge on Broby. How many challenges did Broby put on him and then end up pushing him into Kinski and end up, putting him out for the rest of the season? Didn't even get booked. You know what I mean? And these are the things that Spurs fans fall for. Rather than sit there, protect Romero, start asking the question. Start putting the pressures on the referees. Get out my club. Get out my club. And I think there's been a witch hunt against them, and I don't think it's very fair.
I have this love-hate relationship with Romero. You know that. I've always been very fair on that. I praise him when he does well. And look, he is a good player. Has he let us down with some of this ending off? Maybe refereeing. Look, we all know refereeing could be improved, Dave. There's no question about that. We know the refereeing standard last season was very poor. We've seen it within the World Cup as well. We know VAR as well can.
But here's where I get confused, Dermo. Everyone will go, well, looking at Tottenham's games, it was evident they weren't getting decisions that other teams were getting, and referees were letting things go. But then in the same breath, they'll go, but look at all the cards Romero's got. And it's like, well, what is it? We're being reffed unfairly, or we're being ref fairly, and this guy's just reckless. Which one?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know as well as I do my views on Romero. Look, is he a great player? Yes. Does he frustrate the hell out of me? Yes. Do I get angry with him? Yes. Do I think he deserves some of his criticism? Yes. Now, for calling out the board, that is fine. As club captain, We don't see a lot of club captains do it, but maybe that's the South American way of doing things. So, you do have to give them respect for that, okay? And I will do. But I also think you also got to prove it on the pitch as well. You got to lead by example on the pitch as well. Any captain worth his salt would lead his men into war, but he also leads by example. You look at Mickey van der Ven, who took over the captaincy, Dave. I thought he'd done a very good job as captain. You see him going around. It's not just about putting a performance on the pitch. It's about going around to the players if we've lost after the game, bringing them up again.
But again,
hang on. Let me finish, Dave, please. I just feel there's too many examples where Romero just walked off. Maybe he's angry with the performance. Maybe he's angry with his own performance. Fair enough. But even not going over certain games, I think, was it last season before, we lost at Wolves, and he didn't go over the away fans to come in. He walked straight down the tunnel. I think little things like that do grape at fans. Now, you're entitled to your opinion, and I respect that opinion you have on Romero.
But I think fans, I think you're double standards there. I think you're letting things slide with Mickey van der Ven that if Romero done it, you'd be outraged by.
No, I've always criticised Mickey van der Ven. I've always given the same treatment.
You're praising Mickey van der. You're saying Romero's walked down the tunnel. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Mickey van der Ven refuse to shake Frank's hand and walk down the tunnel?
Yeah, I criticised him down then.
When Spurs fans were venting their frustration, Mickey van der Ven went into the crowd and offered a fan out for a fight. There's things people let slide with Mickey van der Ven, which I don't understand why. If you're going to criticise one player with stuff, you've got to hold the same values to other players. Otherwise, that's favouritism.
Yeah, I think a little bit fair, Dave. You know me well enough. I criticised him for that. I'm not here being a hypocrite. I'm here saying that I've criticised him for what he did last season, as well as what Romero done.
Someone that offers a fan out for a fight, is that a good leader of a club? Considering the fan base is the club.
Well, look, we know how. Look, Dave, it's okay saying there's two sides to every story. We don't know what the fan was saying to him. We don't know. We don't know what he said to him. Well, no, I'm sorry. Human nature takes over, Dave. If you're a professional footballer and somebody,
if you lose your cool, you're not good enough to be a captain. You give out about Romero losing his cool. He lost his cool to a fan. Well, it's not a good sign of a captain to me.
Was Roy Keane a good captain? He lost his cool, got sent off.
So then what's the problem when Romero does it then?
No, hang on. You got Eric Cantona? He was captain and jumped into the crowd. And but
then you're making my point when it comes to Romero. Why do you give out about him getting sent off when you've mentioned Roy Keane got sent off? But look at him being a great captain and stuff.
Yeah, but Roy Keane didn't come out, and I know social media wasn't around back then, but Roy Keane never come out and slated the board when he was playing Man United board. Or never slated. He slated people after he didn't
have reasons to slate the Man United board. He's well paid and they had the best in care. They were winning.
Well, he says I just think Romero. Look, it's a love-hate relation I have with Romero. I just feel he did let us down, and I am entitled to that opinion. I'm entitled that he has let us down by getting sent off and missing games. I'm entitled to that opinion, and I don't know why I should be made to feel any less that I'm not entitled to that opinion, because I am. Look, he's a great player.
I'm challenging your opinion.
He's a great player, but I just think now he will be moved out because of the centre backs we brought in, and that's where I was going with it next. Do you feel this was the club's way of moving them on with bringing in the centre backs we brought in, or do you think De Zerbi will use Van der Ven and Romero, keep him as captain, keep him in the squad, use them as the first two pairing, but they're also building for next season when we're in Europe, so we have a squad big enough to compete on all fronts of the trophies that we're in for? So where are you on this? I mean, it's a very sort of confusing situation. From my understanding, for I've been told, there's multiple clubs after Romero. Romero's already spoken to De Zerbi. He doesn't want to leave. Are we looking a little bit of Mexican standoff here, if you know what I mean?
No, look, I think it's a case Romero wants out. I think, he's at loggerheads with the board. But I don't think the board want that headache either, to be brutally honest. So I think it's been a mutual agreement that once the World Cup is done, Romero will move. I think he's probably instructed his agent. I don't want to hear anything about transfers until the World Cup is over. I want another World Cup medal, and I want to help Messi win another World Cup. So, until that's done, there'll be nothing on my future. And I think that's what we're seeing pan out. But I do think he will move on. Personally,
Yeah.
I'd like to keep him if there's a world where we can. But look, it looks like I've been around long enough, and it does look like he's on his way out of the football club.
Well, there is a way, Dave, we could look at this. When you put Mickey van der Ven as left back, as a left wing back, because he has played there for Holland, by the way, and put Romero and his Argentinian counterpart as the centre backs, and have sort of Van Hecke as a backup, and Danso as a backup pairing as well. Is that a sort of world where we might see as well? Because Mickey's very good on the left side as a left back. We see him playing there for Holland. Can we see that happening? Do you think we might see that happening in pre-season, where he does start with that
I think
all the players are back?
It's something I would like to see, because with his pacey strength and stuff, he could certainly be a nuisance given the license to get forward on the football. But given how high that line was that De Zerbi played last season, I think he's going to do the exact same thing again. And Mickey van der Ven's crucial in that aspect, in terms of being able to get back and, with his recovery pace and snuff out some balls, that are put in behind him or players running onto them. So ultimately, and the fact that they signed Robertson, if you move Mickey van der Ven out to left back, then all of a sudden you've got three left backs, bit unbalanced. So for me, I don't think that's the case. I think it's the defense has been set up to make way for Romero to leave.
The why I said that, Dave, is Fiorentina have been in talks with Udogi. So that's why I was mentioning that. If Udogi did go to Fiorentina, which I was given the information that he might be, then would you move Mickey van der Ven to the left and play him and Robinson on the left, put Senesi and Romero, or for Senesi and Van Hecke as the centre backs, and Porro and Joe Spence on the right? I just wonder, because you've got the luxury of that, haven't you? You've got the luxury of playing Van der Ven as a centre or on the left side, which I suppose for a manager is a great sort of option to have, isn't it? Because I'm surprised he never did that more last season, Dave, when we were having these injuries, why he never played Van der Ven on left. But again, we didn't have the cover in the midfield. And it brings it back again, doesn't it, Dave, with the squad building? Look, for me, it's important we get it right this season, that next summer it's a case of just filling out the rest of the squad, Dave. With one game a week, how important is it that we're already putting in plans for next season, for next summer? How important that you have to plan a year ahead, don't you? Look, nobody's guaranteed to get Europe. But to be fair, I think we're going to get Champions League. That's how far I think we're going to go this season with the squad we're building. But do you think we have to start looking ahead to next season and start planning for what could be a Europa League or a Champions League campaign? That we've got the squad, we've got the players to fulfill on every competition, because that's been the biggest gripe I think you and me have both said about previous managers. They haven't been focused on just on one competition. We need to be focused on everything, don't we? As a manager and the club, we need to FA Cup, League Cup, whatever, win everything.
Yeah, 100%. But I think De Zerbi's one of them that'll always be pushing to improve the squad. So hopefully they keep listening to him. If he goes off and has an unbelievable campaign this year, then he's earned their trust to kick on again and bring in his players again, if you like. But I think, look, they came out and said it was going to be a multiple window sort of, rebuild. Not everything was going to get done in one window. They said that. But I think the most important thing was to really set the foundations of the rebuild this summer. And so far they've done that. They've still got a bit more to do. We still need two players in the forward areas, But once they do that, then you're maybe looking at, then once you sit back, your window's done, you concentrate on your games. Then you're sort of sitting back and looking and going, right, well, goalkeeper does need to be addressed beyond this season. Dubravka's 36, 37. He's going to be 38 by the time season's over, depending on how Kinski gets on as well. So you're going to be looking at a goalkeeper for sure. Then it's time to weigh up Destiny Udogie and Jed Spence after next season. Have they kicked on? Have they not? If they haven't, then maybe you look to go in the fullback areas again. You look to add one more to that midfield collection you're gathering. move on the weakest player, bring in another player, and then you're also then looking out, filling out your forward line as well. So that's how it should be done.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, before we end this podcast, please do hit the follow on this podcast as well. Dave's link for his channel will be in the description below. So this podcast also being sponsored by O'Connell Designs as well. All the information in the description below as well. Dave, look, before we end off, I just want to touch on very quick about strikers. And you and me, well, I think you had the luxury of seeing Robbie Keane, Defoe as strikers when you were younger, running up to Harry Kane. I've seen players like Steve Archibald, Garth Crooks, Clive Allen, Gary Lineker, Jurgen Klinsmann, when he came, Teddy Sheringham. The less we say about Chris Armstrong, the better. And the less about us say, who's the other one, Dave, that was absolutely dreadful? Was it that Russian player? Do you remember him? We bought after the... Yeah. No,
I like the path.
No.
We had Rebrov. He was useless.
Oh, yeah, that was him, Rebrov, yeah. So we have bought a few stinkers in our time, Dave, to be fair. But Tottenham have always had world-class strikers. Mentioned a few. I said Gary Lineker, Harry Kane, Teddy Sheringham, Garth Crooks, Steve Archibald. Look, you can go back to the greatest of them all, Jimmy Greaves, and Martin Shivers back in the day, which I think you had the pleasure of being shown around on a stadium tour. I still got the picture you got for me, by the way, on my desk. Good. That doesn't leave my desk. Look, we've seen a lot of good strikers over the years. Who would you think be a good striker? Now, I think Solanke should be sold. I don't think he's good enough. I look, Richie, for me, Richie falls over a lot, to be fair. That's all right. You're right. Richie, for me, falls over a lot and tries to con the referee, which referee sort of copped on to what he was doing. You look at Solanke, I've got a sore throat, I can't play today, which I think, then if that's the case, then just leave. I want a striker we need a striker, Dave, that's going to score 20 to 30, 15 to 20 goals a season. Where are you going with that? Who do you think coming in? We're linked with the Bournemouth player, aren't we? Cooper Jr. Another player that's had one good season, if I might add, a bit like Solanke. Or do you go for a player like Vadovic, who's out of contract? But on that, my view on that, Dave, is you sign him on a year's contract with an option of a further 2 to see how he gets on in the Premier League. Where are you going with it? And which one out of the 2? And does Solanke leave for you or Richie?
Look, preferably I'd like to move Bolt on. I think Bolt have come in for 60 odd million. The Bolt been given a fair chance.
Yeah.
Bolt haven't taken it. But if we were to keep one around, I would keep Richarlison over Dominic Solanke. And the reason why is Richarlison scores more goals than Dominic Solanke in a Tottenham jersey. And that's as simple as that. That's what striker's job is. And people can go, oh, well, Solanke's better outside the box. I don't think he's that much better than Richarlison in terms of hold up playing, passing it and stuff. I think he's just as clunky. But I think the reason why Richarlison scores more goals is if you look at his movement in the box, it's better than Solanke's.
Yeah,
he reads and anticipates crosses and balls into the box better than what Solanke does. Now, and I'd also make the argument with the midfielders we got and the players we've got at our disposal, Kudus coming back, Madison and that. You don't need Richarlison for build-up play. You just need him to cover the width of the box, be in the box when the ball's coming in. Simplify his game an awful lot. But ideally, I want both of them gone. I would actually rather see Will Lancashire be given the opportunity. Dom Solanke scored 3 league goals last season. You're telling me Will Lancashire couldn't have bagged 3? Come on now.
I think Will Lancashire. So, look, I don't know if you, Dave, but I see a lot of Harry Kane in Will Lancashire. I don't want to heap too much pressure on the kid, but you watch some of the goals he scored last season. There's very much Kane-esque about him. I agree with you. He needs to be given the chance. Like Mikey Moore needs to be given the chance. They've let 2 of our young players go. Too many of them going to other clubs.
But just in terms of players coming in, I know people don't want to hear it, but the reality is we're not signing Kane, we're not signing Mbappe, we're not signing Haaland. No. We're not. Outside of that, there's not a lot of great strikers out there. Whoever you bring in, they're going to have their pros and their cons. There's going to be a massive debate where some say he's going to be worked out, some are going to say he's not. You're effectively taking a gamble. The striker window was last summer when everyone was making moves for strikers. We missed that. So effectively now you're left taking a gamble.
Yeah,
I would want to I would bring back Colin Moani and give him another opportunity. And
well, there is talk that we're going in for him again, Dave, and that is really sort of upset some of the fan base. But do you know what? Thinking about it, I don't think he was given the right time. I think on the three different managers, I think De Zerbi's the manager to get something out of him. But his performances last season didn't sort of endear him to Tottenham fans.
But the thing is, he's not a winger.
No, that's true.
He's
a striker. He's a number 9.
Yeah, he played most of his games off the wing. And the reason why he was asked to be put out on the wing and not up front is because Richarlison can't play there Dominic Solanke. So he was used to accommodate them. And I think a lot. I understand where the anger from the Spurs fans come in. He come in with a big reputation. Everyone was expecting him to bag the goals. But if you don't play him in the position where he's bagged the goals, what do you expect for the guy to do? You know, under Frank, he played off the left a lot of the times. Under De Zerbi, when he came in, he played off the right-hand side. But if you go back and look at the games we actually played him up front, PSG away, scored. Arsenal at home in the North London Derby, scored. So when he played up front, he scored goals for us. So for me, I wouldn't be opposed if there's not other options out there that we can get that's of a certain level. I wouldn't be. I would give him another opportunity personally. You know, up front, and I think he'd actually score goals this time around. Another one I've always wanted to take a bit of a punt on is Dusan Vlahovic, big, strong, physical guy. He's got attributes for the Premier League. The problem is he's just trying to get him fit. He's had a few injuries over the last couple of years, but for me, he's one I would take a gamble on because that's where we're at right now. We're taking punts in the market in terms of bringing in a striker.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there is. I don't know if it's gone out now. I don't know if it has gone out, but there is a clause in Kane's contract for 52 million. Now, I'm not sure if that went out last January or it's still the same for this summer.
Yeah, but he still has to agree to come back. Like, it's not like we trigger it and he has to come back.
No. But do you think just say, for example, we use this as, I don't know if it's true or not. I need to double check on that, but I think there is a clause, 52 million, but whatever. Just say hypothetically, there is. And hypothetically, he sees what Tottenham are doing. Do you think there's a little bit of Harry Kane thinking, do you know what? They've got the right manager. They're spending the right money. I want the Premier League record. He wants to beat Alan Shearer's record. We know that. Do you think there's a part of him, do you know what? I've won my trophies with Bayern Munich, right? Okay, he hasn't won the Champions League, but he's won his trophies. Do you think I'll come back and see, can I win something in my career at Tottenham again and win something? Do you think, hypothetically, there's a little bit of that in the back of his mind?
I understand the conversation, but I struggle to talk about it because about three odd years ago, I was sitting on my YouTube channel and I had people one after another in my comments coming on, telling me I was wrong. Got to let him go. Tottenham are going to move on without Harry Kane. They're going to be just fine without Harry Kane, they said. So why are we having this conversation?
I'm not. I'm just saying.
Why did people came back when they thought it was a good thing and that we were going to move on and we were going to be in, and we weren't going to miss him and stuff. Now all of a sudden, that 30-odd people are going, we need Kane back.
Well, to be fair, Dave.
If people had that attitude at the time, maybe we could have put a bit of pressure on the club, and maybe we could have gotten to stay.
Well, to be fair, Dave, he was in the last year of his contract. He had no sign of re-signing. You do run the risk then of either selling him for some money or letting him go for free in January. I think the club just said, right, we're going to ride. If he wasn't going to sign a new contract, I think then he would have said, right, we'll take some money from him. I understand your argument, what you're saying, but from the club side of it, I think you were running down the risk of him going for nothing. I know we wasted the money a little bit on Brennan Johnson. I still think Brennan Johnson's a good player if you can get the right player out of it. And I will die on that hill with him, Dave. I will die on that hill. And I'd still say he scored the winner in the Europa League final, so I'm going to die on that hill for him. But I think as a club, you're still... Pardon?
I said credit where credit's due. He did get the goal in the Europa League final.
Yeah. I think as a club, you're running with a 50-50. And we had that with Judas as well. We let his contract run down. He left for nothing. And I think then he would have had a pick of anyone. And I think Bayern Munich come in and said, right, we're going to give you this amount. And Tottenham said, right, if you're not going to sign a new contract, we'll take it. I think it really left Ange Postecoglou the way it was done in a really bad place. 4 days before the start of the season with no striker. But if that is right, if my information is correct, and I'm really dragging this out from the back of my brain, that 52 million is inserted into his contract, that Tottenham can go and do it for 52 million.
Yeah, I think you are right. I think there was some clause put in.
So if that is the case, and he's not going to, at the moment, he's not signing a new contract at Bayern Munich, do Tottenham go in with a cheeky bid and put a cheeky little thing? I'm not saying to come back, but I think he will come back to Tottenham, Dave. I think he will. I think we're the only club he will come back to. I don't think he's that type of player that will go to a Man United or a Chelsea or wherever. I think Tottenham's the only club he will come back to in the Premier League. And he does want to break that record. But if he's seen what Tottenham are doing now at the moment, and you're thinking, well, hang on, I've got my medals. I've won my trophies. I've been the most successful import into German football in years. Right, what do I want to do now? I want the Premier League record. I want to beat Alan Shearer. Tottenham, I want to come back to my home. I think he will. I understand what you're saying, though, and it makes perfect sense what you're saying. But for me, hypothetically, I think Tottenham should put a cheeky bid in. Hypothetically. I mean, if they do, they do. They don't, they don't. But how great would it be, Dave? I'll ask this question after me rambling. How funny would it be? He would come back 4 days before we play Brentford away, after we sold him 4 days before we played Brentford away. How sort of out of conspiracy theories, can you see that happening? Like
it's not going to happen this summer. I think. I think if Harry Kane was to make a return back to the Premier League, I think you're probably looking at next summer.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But he's not just going to come back to Tottenham for Tottenham's sake. You know, he has better chance of breaking the goal record in a team that's challenging for the Premier League title because he's going to score goals in that team. So he's going to go to a team that gives him the best chance of winning the Premier League and breaking that goal record. This isn't a guy that's just motivated by personal records. He never has been. He's been motivated by trophies. That's why he left Tottenham. He could have reached all these personal accolades at Tottenham. It meant nothing to him. He left to go in pursuit of trophies.
Yeah, I know he left to win
trophies. You know, in order for us to be able to lure him back, we have to be up there challenging for the Premier League title.
Yeah, I just see it happening, Dave. I just see it happening. I can see you getting a bit of his hair again. You know, I suppose you haven't been in the lab already.
No, I've already got his shit locked in my top drawer with his signature.
Yeah, see, I'm surprised you haven't been in some like Frankenstein in these or making a new clone of Harry Kane. You know, I suppose you haven't done it yet, Dave. Well, you could be doing it. We don't know. But guys, that is it. That is the return of the Irish Lads Talk Spurs. We've had great numbers today. A lot of people in. Thank you so much for coming in. Dave, do you want to tell people a bit about the Irish Hotspur? It's a great channel. It's a channel where you gave me my debut nearly 5 years ago now. I've been doing this. And it's a channel we'll be hopefully going on a lot next season as well with you guys. But why should people get over there? And what's your next milestone, sir?
About the milestone there, more just the new season, I suppose. Just like, you know, get back into the new season and see how it goes. Look, you know, you can find if you don't know, you know, and you want to listen to more, you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. We're just sort of getting back into the swing of things. Had a bit of a mental break after last season. It was sort of needed. Sit back, enjoy the World Cup. But then Tottenham started ringing off these signings, and it's just got me geared back up for the new season. Very, very excited, and I'm just waiting for that to come around so I can start getting back into watching games and all. That's what I live for. This summer nonsense annoys me. It's all about the games, the footy.
You think next summer we'll have no football at all during the summer, Dave? It's going to be so boring, like with nothing in the summer. Do you just wait quickly before
I might be able to actually sit back and watch some of the GA then.
Yeah, Mayo might win the All Ireland this year. They're in the semi-final on
either.
Yeah, I could see Louth winning it. They've played well, actually. Look, very quickly, Dave, on the Ireland situation, we can't leave this podcast end it without talking about Ireland. Look, we got Euro 2028 coming up. We've got the Nations League coming up as well. I'm not going to go into the politics side of it, but we've got the Israeli games coming up, which are now being played away from Ireland. Look, Dave, from me personally, point of view, I think we should have just said we're going to take the 6 points loss and not play them at all out of principle. But I suppose when you look at it, loss of revenue, loss of sponsorship, getting demoted into League 3 in the Nations League, it's not worth it, is it? But what's your hope for Ireland? My hope is we qualify for Euro 2028 and we're at our own major tournament. I mean, imagine that happening, Dave. We do our live streams from Dublin with the Irish team. It would be great, wouldn't it? That it's coming home to our country. What's your thoughts on Ireland coming up for the new international season?
Look, we sort of rided the crest of a wave, towards the back end of the World Cup qualifying campaign. I think the win over Portugal, and stuff sort of kicked us on a little bit. We were sort of riding the crest of a wave there. But for large parts of that, we were shocking. We were awful.
Yeah.
And until we get a midfield, which we don't, we bypass the midfield. It's bypassed every single game. We play long ball because it's so crap. We can't play through it. And other teams just run through it all the time, popping passes around it. It's being pulled apart left, right, and centre. So until Ireland get a midfield, I don't think we're going to be at the Euros, unfortunately, Dermo. We're honestly, the guy has to find a midfield pairing that can work together. You see at Tottenham, you don't have a grip in the midfield, you're going to lose more games than you win.
Yeah, that's exactly. Do you know what, Dave? UEFA should actually make Ireland sort of qualify automatically. England's going to do it through their group, right? We know that. We know Scotland probably will as well. Wales and Northern Ireland might do, might not.
I don't think they should do it, Dermo. I don't think it does the FAI any favours to clean up their house and improve the game here and improve the quality of players.
Don't talk to me about the FAI. They're the biggest corruptible. They're as corrupt as FIFA.
100%. The only way they're going to learn their lesson is by not giving them softball or there you are.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Let the public pressure build on the FAI and make them change their ways.
Yeah. I just want to get your thoughts as well. I should have started with it, Dave, but on FIFA itself and the corruptibility of the organization. We had the American, who we've been linked with, by the way, that American player Spurs have been linked with, Balogun, Donald Trump bringing up FIFA president. I want my player. I mean, if Micheal Martin did that, I think Ireland would be excluded for the next 20 World Cups if he had the chance of doing that, to be fair. I asked it on my other podcast, Dave. I will get you onto that as well. I asked the question, does FIFA need pulling down and starting again? Now, we've been through this with the FAI, with our own John Delaney, and all the corruption's gone through that. Do organisations like the FAI and like FIFA have to be dragged down from the top, Dave, and rebuilt again? But how do you go about it? It can't be government-led. Do you put out an independent panel of football people that we know are not corruptible and let them build football in the image it should be built in? But how do you do that in Ireland? But how do you do that with a world governing body?
Well, look,
because we know they're both corruptible.
They had the chance after Sepp Blatter was pulled down for corruption and stuff, and their offices were raided and, all of that. But, here we are again. I think the biggest thing football needs to do in general is kick politics out of the game. It's been hijacked by politics, political movements from all sides. Yeah. And the reason why, and I find it a bit ironic though, and the reason why is because they're sitting there, people need to be better and football fans need to be better and stuff. Football already is the most accessible sport for anyone across the world to play. It doesn't take big money like it does to play rugby and cricket and some of these other sports. Football is already played in the poorest of countries. Yeah. So it expands, what you would call political class and stuff like that. It precedents that. It already brings all different religions, all different races and, different beliefs and all together.
Brings us together.
And what politics has done, has seen that and go, that's where we advance our movement. That's where the most eyes are on, and stuff like that. And what they've actually started to do is divide football, And for me, I think the first thing it needs to do is kick out politics.
Yeah,
After that, then put people in positions who have been in and around the game, have played the game and stuff like that. Because, look, I think it's going to come out in years down the line. I think it's going to come out that VAR is corrupt and it's used to, come with certain outcomes and stuff like that. And I think that's going to come out down the line for me. VAR.
I agree. I agree, Dave. It is going to come out. You look at the World Cup, right? And you look at how it is. I agree with you 100%. I think, look, problem is, how long before, and it was mentioned on TalkSport recently, how long before people won't trust what they're seeing? If that is going to be the case, then you're losing the fabric of what soccer or football is all about.
Yeah.
It's about how long before once we stop believing what we're watching on the pitch, then it takes away the sport as it is. I totally agree with you. But the problem is, Dave, you know as well as I do, there's too much money in the game now. Players are being paid too much. Television companies are sort of running the game. You can play this game, putting games on at 5:30, I don't know, on a Saturday evening for away fans up in Newcastle. But if you're, say, Tottenham and you've got to travel all the way up to Newcastle, it's not fair on them, or at 7:00 on the Sunday evening.
Look. There's
what I mean?
Football does need sponsorships. It does need TV.
I get that,
because the thing is, not everyone can travel 2 games. So if you don't have TV revenues, how are fans in Ireland, USA, supposed to watch games and stuff like that? So
I get it. The point I'm trying to make is there's too much influence into the game. Everyone, we do need TV revenue, but if you're putting a game on at 7:00 up in Newcastle, and you've got to travel up from Tottenham, Newcastle, but you're up at work 4:30 the following morning, how's that fair? There's too much interference, I think. And this is where the Premier League as well, Dave, I think is another thing. We've got the Man City stuff as well, which we will get into in the next podcast. But it's just not helping. Football's not helping itself at the moment, Dave.
Not cheating itself up.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think, Dave, look, I'm 50 in February. By the time, do you think in the next 10 years when I'm 60 and I'm close to retirement age, and I'll never retire from YouTube, I'm telling you that now, that we might see a completely different game altogether to what we're seeing now? When does the bubble burst? It has to burst sometimes. It's like an economy. You can't keep overheating an economy. The economy is going to go into recession.
Well, yeah, but that's when the bubble will burst in football, Yeah. Once the economy goes and all the banks and the lenders that all these football clubs and everybody in football is using, and all the money dries up for the millionaires and the billionaires and stuff like that, that's when the football bubble is going to burst. But it's not just going to be football. Be golf, be American football, be every sport be affected by it.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. Big up to the Mum Overlord. Big up to your state. Hope you're doing well. Do get over to THFC Talks Football if you can as well. I'm on there tonight. 7:30 for their World Cup watch along, which is a bit of a giggle, and I enjoy going on there. Big up to Paul as well. He says red card for American, super suspended Ted card for England, not 1 game but 2. Work that one out. Yeah, we'll see. That's when the British Prime Minister starts talking to FIFA. He makes things worse. And big up the Flip 40. FIFA makes the mafia blush. They do actually. I do agree with that. You look at the mafia and FIFA is like 10 times worse. But Dave, thank you again. I've really missed doing this podcast with you. I really enjoy it. We're back next Thursday, every Thursday at 2:00, unless something happens. Then we might move it to the Friday. But I'm looking forward to it. What's your plans for the weekend, bud? A few games. Going to watch a bit of Gaelic, All Ireland. Watch Mayo reach the final, Dave. I know it'd make you really happy to watch Mayo reach an All Ireland final. Yeah,
well, look, there's a lot of sport on this weekend. I think Ireland are back on in the rugby again, aren't they? In that new international tournament, with good start over the win over Australia. Yeah. You've got the semi-finals of the football on the GAA, so I'll give that a watch. Then there's some UFC tomorrow night. Paddy Pimblett's on, so I'll give him a watch. And then obviously the World Cup games as well. England tomorrow night. I'll definitely sit back, watch that. I think there's a game Sunday. There's a game tonight. So yeah, my weekend right now is evolving around sports and trying to find shade and hide in the heat. To be honest with you, Dermo,
Yeah,
just trying to survive this onslaught of the hot weather.
I'd tell you,
People around
Dave,
the
it's
world
very
don't
hot.
understand that. Like our homes are built to keep heat in because Ireland is traditionally sort
It
of cold
is.
country, you know. So when the heat comes, it's just trapped inside your house, and they're not
Yeah.
built with aircon or anything like that either. But then what makes me laugh though, Dermo, is then you hear all the warnings on the news and everything. I'm like, okay, brainwave. Why don't you start building buildings with aircon then? If this is going to be the norm moving forward, you know.
But they don't.
Madness.
Look, we're so used to the wind and the rain over here that a bit of sunlight, we're a bit
I
shocked
can't
by
wait
it.
for
Like,
it. I'm praying
Yeah.
for September and October.
I am. I love the winter. Anyway, on that bombshell, me and Dave hoping for rain. I'm sure half of Ireland will be chucking stuff at their screens now. But on that bombshell, we'll see you next week at 2. Come on, you Spurs.
Come
And
on,
the
you
mighty
Spurs.
the mighty deserving we trust. Right, where is